The latest Tom Clancy film starring the likes of Michael B. Jordan is coming to Prime Video this week, and it's called Without Remorse. And guys, this is a pretty kick-ass movie. What's going on, buddy? Welcome back to a brand new movie review. My name is Zach. I am the Wolf of Geek Street, and if you guys are new here, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so we can keep talking movies over here on a daily basis. That is my favorite thing to do, and I'm sure if you're here, you probably love talking movies as well, so make sure to also comment down below your thoughts. That way we can have a great discussion all down there. I always try to reply back to every single person that I possibly can. Without Remorse, it's about John Clark, a Navy SEAL who goes on a path to avenge his wife's murder, only to find himself inside a larger conspiracy. This is directed by Stefano Salim, and it's also written by Taylor Sheridan, who I'm a major fan of, but it also stars the likes of Michael B. Jordan, Jodie Turner-Smith, Jamie Bell, Guy Pearce, Lauren London, Jacob Sipal, and really much, this is a great cast. This is a great story to follow, and I'm really into the Tom Clancy universe. I know a lot of the films can be hit or miss, and even the video games that they definitely tackle all this sorts of elements, but one of the things that has been really much prevalent is what Prime Video has been doing with the show with John Krasinski, which also takes place in the Tom Clancy universe, which is Jack Ryan, which I freaking love. I love Jack Ryan. Please give me the next episode or the next season. I've been waiting way too long for it. Just mentioning those two, something I really gotta mention before we even dive further into this review is I really want both of those franchises to connect. To see John Krasinski working alongside Michael B. Jordan would just be awesome. And I think kind of formulating your own Tom Clancy universe with these main characters from the books would just be pretty sweet. I'm not saying that that's their plans, but come on, if they're not thinking about it, you gotta be kidding me. But with that said, Without Remorse actually pretty much surprised me, because once again, the Tom Clancy films are pretty hit or miss. Sometimes they're really good, sometimes they're pretty forgettable. All the time they're just decent enough to watch, but is this a forgettable one or is this a really good one? But this is one that I've actually quite thought about for the last couple of weeks, because I was very fortunate enough to be able to see this film early, because I also got to attend a press conference to hear the writers, the directors, and even the actors discuss this film in full details. And I learned a lot of cool tidbits from there that actually made me like the film more. And that's not saying that I already didn't like the film, but it's more of an appreciation around the craftsmanship that came about within it. So one of the things that I've been really looking forward to is seeing Michael B. Jordan not just be an actor, but seeing how he is now producing heavily, and now how he's now turning into a writer and a director, especially when you look at Creed 3. And for me, I think Jordan is going down this path that is very much all hands on board. And Without Remorse is one of those first films that he is all hands on board. He's a producer, he's an actor, and a lot of creative thought put into this movie that really much surprised me for the most part, but was absolutely just a great thing to see. In a sense, this was actually Jordan's first action film, and with that hands-on experience and bringing on more stunts within here, because a lot of the stuff is very practical. They talk about one sequence in here in particular, which is this whole airplane thing that keeps like circling, going underwater. Just in general, the way they frame that whole sequence with the camera level is just awesome. But the stunts put into there, he actually had to legit hold his breath for like over 3 minutes long. Now, I don't know about you guys, I can only hold my breath for like 30 seconds, maybe 60 if I'm lucky, and then almost die. Just hearing in general Jordan talk about the producing level and how this creativeness has really brought this new flair to him inside his personal career, again, just makes me so excited for the future of what he's doing next. Of course, Without Remorse, what does it set aside when it goes against, of course, the Tom Clancy universe? What's so different compared to, say, Jack Ryan or some of the other characters within inside this universe? And for me, I think the biggest thing is that this is the darker version of Jack Ryan. He has the kind of take where, take no enemies, I don't care, I'm getting what I want. And I think there's an important part to be told with inside this story, because with what Without Remorse really tackles with the character of John Clark is a lot of emotion, and you feel that prevalent throughout the entire story. And something that, again, that really works well is the performances in here. Of course, I already mentioned Michael B. Jordan just nails every single role, but bringing the physicality and, of course, the emotional aspects of it all, and the way that he mixes it all together just shows that why he's one of the best actors working right now. That's where I also want to give a shout out to Jodie Turner-Smith, who plays Karen Greer, who, if you've definitely know the universe, you know who she is related to, and I think that was a really cool little tidbit, and kind of just the small Easter eggs they kind of do throughout this entire film. just like they do with Jack Ryan. It just puts a big smile on my face. But Jodie Turner-Smith was a big standout in Queen and Slim a couple years back, and now she is a giant standout in Without Remorse, especially with the relationship that she has with Michael B. Jordan's character, and that buddy bonding and just, of course, best friend relationship, and the way that they formed it together feels like they have been war-torn buddies and in general been in this whole heat for years on end, and you feel and believe it. You don't just see the two actors here, you truly see the characters, and that is such an important aspect of when creating a film like this. Greer and Kelly's relationships in here, and the conversations, the mental and physicality as partners, and finding that balance between camaraderie and brother and sister relationship, kind of decide to get a little bit deeper within there. And that's why I like attending these press conferences, because I start to learn a little bit more of just the little in-depth things that they put inside these characters and nuances that you see on screen, but just them talking about it, you're like, yeah, that is really true. I actually can't emphasize enough, like, shout out to Jodie Turner-Smith. She was pregnant while shooting this movie and was kicking major ass as well. Truly enough, she was the one pushing her body out of every single person, and you know, you just gotta give a shout out to that. One person in particular that I was really interested to see how he was going to take on this film. You know, it's really cool that Taylor Sheridan wrote the script. I'm a major fan of all of his writing. Of course, it is the director Stefano Sollimo, who I have always really liked. I really loved his direction in Sicario 2, Day of the Soldado. And when I saw that he was doing Without Remorse, I got really excited for this, because I actually thought something that he did so good in Sicario was bringing the camera and the realness to the gritty fights and action sequences that felt like you were truly boots on the ground. And he brings that same element to Without Remorse in such a grand way. And again, finding out at the press conference, guys, Stefano, he used to be a war camera operator. Something that I would have never expected, but when you hear that and then you see the camera and the fight scenes in here and just in the way that he shoots all the action, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Stefano shares how the way that he shoots films is that he incorporates a direction that is respectful in a way, but doesn't dirty the point of view of what is going on. He wants the action to tell the story, not just the camera or the script. He wants a visual flair going on. And that's what I love about Without Remorse as well, is that a lot of these action films nowadays, you know, it's always so choppy and the editing's all so weird. And, you know, sometimes films can make it work and sometimes they definitely can't. But with what Without Remorse does is it gives this very real feeling to it, something that actually feels like you're in boots on the ground with these soldiers and feeling every punch, pull, kick, and shot, or even explosion. And that's just great, especially when you're watching it at home and you're not seeing it in big theaters. It all feels so scrappy and not overly stylized. And again, some films, it's all good to be stylized. I love that. But for a film like this, the boots on the ground feel, you need that. It's just production design, set pieces, all sorts of things like that. Again, that plane sinking sequence was honestly really unique. And I just sat there like in awe of how they pulled it off. Just a straight up entertaining movie, and I think that's what Without Remorse does. I think there are some elements to it that are a little bit predictable, especially when it comes down to certain twists or turns that you completely see from a miles away. And again, the film's entertaining for the most part. I feel like it could have gone a little bit deeper. I feel like there was maybe 20 to 30 minutes that could have been added to this to really give more depth overall. I think for me, I would have really loved that, because there are certain characters in here that are introduced but not really given that much depth to them or even that much background to them, and they just end up becoming a little bit generic for the sense of being generic, but they're a little bit doing better because of the performances, which is crazy because, again, this is a Taylor Sheridan script and I expected a little bit more from that, and I don't know if stuff got cut in the editing room or if it just wasn't in the script per se, but again, when it comes to a faults for this film, I do think the script is pretty predictable, and I do think it would have really helped with a couple more emotional avenues coming about. But even I digress with that. Without Remorse is a completely entertaining movie that Michael B. Jordan just completely owns. But it's not just him that owns it, it's also Jodie Turner-Smith, who is a major standout as well. This movie is dark, it's entertaining, it's gritty, and it feels really scrappy. The way that they created the film on a whole production scale was really riveting, and as well as the way that Stefano shot the entire movie, again, brings that boots on the ground feel. This is a really great film, and I hope you guys do get to check it out. And also, there is an end credit scene to this, so do stay after the credits. I did not know that. I was sitting there taking my notes right after the film ended, and boom, a scene came out. I'm like, what? There's an end credit scene? So make sure to stay after the scenes for that, because I feel like a lot of people are going to miss it. And that end credit scene put a huge smile on my face for where they could possibly be taking the direction of the Tom Clancy universe and certain things that they might be adding later on. So with all that said, guys, I am going to give Without Remorse a B+. Thank you once again for Prime Video for the early screener, as well as inviting me to the press conference. I think it really actually helped me give a lot more details and dive deeper into this film than I probably would have before, because as I was watching, I was like, this is pretty entertaining. Then I got to see the press conference, and I'm like, oh no, there's a lot more depth that I can actually talk about, and I'm so excited to be here, guys, with you guys, talking about Without Remorse. So make sure to comment down below your thoughts, as well as hit that like and subscribe button. Head on over to Sandwich on Films on how to see films early, and of course, just a big thank you to you, and a big thank you to my Patreon supporters, because without you, I won't be able to do it. So of course, until next time, stay classy.